The fall of the Ottoman Empire. The long farewell of an empire. At its peak, the Ottoman Empire ruled 3 continents and was a force everyone had to respect. By the late 1600s, especially around 1683, it reached its largest borders. But history always moves forward, and no power stays on top forever. After the late 17th century, the empire slowly began to lose strength. By 1922, it officially came to an end. This was not a simple, one battle and everything collapsed story. It was a long decline shaped by political, economic, military, and social problems. So instead of listing titles, let's ask one question. What pushed this great empire toward its fall? A changing world, a still empire. To understand the fall, we must look at the world around the Ottomans. Europe was transforming rapidly. In the 15th and 16th centuries, 3 major events changed everything: the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Age of Discovery. Science advanced, new ideas spread, technology improved, and global trade was reshaped. Europeans discovered new sea routes. For centuries, the Ottomans controlled the silk and spice roads and earned huge profits. But now ships sailed around Africa and reached Asia directly. Less trade passed through Ottoman lands, and income fell sharply. At the same time gold and silver from the Americas flooded Europe, prices rose everywhere, including the Ottoman Empire. Inflation increased, money lost value, and people struggled. The state tried to fix its budget by raising taxes, which created even more pressure. In the 18th century, Europe entered the Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution. Factories, machines, and modern industries changed how nations built power. The Ottoman Empire noticed these changes too late. Reforms were slow, incomplete, or blocked by internal resistance. By the time European powers started asking, what will happen to the Ottoman Empire? The empire had already lost control of its future. The failed Second Siege of Vienna and the Treaty of Karlowitz marked a clear turning point. The era of expansion was over. The era of retreat had begun. When the palace weakens, the state weakens. Even the strongest state collapses if leadership becomes unstable. That is what happened to the Ottoman Empire. After powerful rulers like Suleiman the Magnificent, many later sultans lacked strong leadership. Sultans changed frequently. The Janissaries and palace groups removed rulers who did not serve their interests. For example, Osman II tried to enforce discipline and start reforms, but the Janissaries opposed him and killed him in 1622. Moments like this weakened the state's authority. Palace politics grew chaotic. Different groups, women, eunuchs, and factions gained influence. Merit declined, corruption increased, and the devshirme system weakened. Institutions such as the military, education, and finance suffered. In the provinces, local leaders, ayans, became stronger. Some acted almost independently. Central power had to negotiate instead of command. The 1808 document called the Sened-i-Ittifaq basically meant the central government cannot rule alone anymore. The empire looked big from outside, but inside, cracks were spreading. Money problems, big debts, small treasury. A strong empire needs a strong economy, but the Ottoman economy faced serious problems. The Timar system collapsed. Security weakened, taxes decreased, and agriculture became unstable. The treasury ran deficits. Trade agreements like the 1838 Balta-Limana Treaty allowed cheap European goods into the empire, destroying local craftsmen and turning the empire into an open market. Inflation grew. Taxes increased. Rebellions started, such as the Salali rebellions. Foreign borrowing began during the Crimean War. Debt grew quickly, but most money went to wars, not development. By the 1870s, the empire could not pay even the interest on its loans. In 1881, the Ottoman Public Debt Administration, Düğünü Umumiye, took control of major state revenues. The empire still had land, but it no longer had financial independence. The army losing its power. A state collapses in 3 steps, first in the mind, then in the treasury, and finally on the battlefield. The Ottoman army was once feared, but the Janissaries became undisciplined and politically powerful. Selim III tried to reform the military but failed. Mahmud II removed the Janissaries in 1826, but the damage had already been done. Meanwhile, European armies modernized quickly. Ottoman defeats increased. Vienna, Lepanto, wars with Russia, the Balkan Wars. Each one reduced morale and territory. World War I became the final blow. A society slowly breaking apart. A state's true strength is unity, but Ottoman society slowly fractured. The Salali rebellions showed deep distrust. Villages emptied, fields were abandoned, and insecurity spread. In the 19th century, nationalism rose across the empire. Serbs, Greeks, Bulgarians, and others sought independence, supported by great powers. The millet system worked only when the state was strong. As it weakened, internal divisions grew. Education fell behind Europe. Scientific progress slowed. Resistance to change delayed modernization. The final goodbye. When we put everything together, the picture becomes clear. The world changed. The empire did not adapt. Leadership weakened. Local powers challenged the center. The economy collapsed under debt. The army lost discipline and strength. Society fragmented through rebellion and nationalism. And after 600 years, the empire ended in 1922. A new era began, the Republic of Turkey. The fall of the Ottoman Empire is not just a historical event. It is a lesson about leadership, economics, military reform, education, and social balance. It teaches us one thing clearly. Even the strongest structures fall when problems are ignored and mistakes accumulate.